hardships of war. The hardships his nation was about to endure would be anything but ordinary. Major General Curtis LeMay arrived in the Mariana Islands in mid-January 1945 to take over the 21st Bomber Command, the B-29s. The B-29s had been rushed into service without proper testing. No matter. LeMay was told to get results.
Curtis LeMay was probably the most innovative air commander of World War II. He really became the Air Force's problem solver. He had a tough problem, he gave it to LeMay. When he was in Europe, he developed the tight defensive formations they used for bombing. He developed the way they did their bomb runs.
Very strong-minded, willed, iron pants LeMay, I guess you could say. You didn't say no to him, you said yes, sir.
Called the Super Fortress, the B-29 was the most advanced bomber in the world. Production of B-29s would cost more than developing the atomic bomb.
141-foot wingspan, 99 feet long, 4 powerful engines on it, and electronically remote-controlled gun sights, 2 bomb bays. Oh boy, that was something else.
And to think that they could take an airplane, a bomber, and pressurize it so that we could feel the same at sea level as we do at 30,000 feet. It just blew my mind.
It could fly for about 18 hours, comfortably 3,700 miles, from the Marianas, Guam, Saipan, and Tinian, all the way up to Tokyo, 2-3 hours in the air over Tokyo and back. And so it's almost perfectly designed for the long distance fighting in the Pacific.
The first B-29 mission over Tokyo from the Marianas was on November 24th, 1944. It was so important to the Army Air Forces, they made a film about it, narrated by Captain Ronald Reagan.
Within a radius of 15 miles of the Imperial Palace live 7 million Japanese, a people we used to think of as small, dainty, polite, concerning themselves only with floral arrangements and rock gardens and the cultivation of silkworms. But it isn't silkworms, and it isn't imperial palaces these men are looking for. In the suburbs of Tokyo is the huge Nakajima aircraft plant. Well, Bud, what are you waiting for?
The film overlooked the problems that plagued the B-29s.
The biggest problem was something that the Air Force discovered that nobody ever knew about or heard about, and that is a jet stream. And if we were going with the jet stream, our bombs were going over the target, and if we were going against it, the bombs would be short of the target. We had a lot of bombs miss the target.
Only 24 of the 111 planes on the first mission over Tokyo dropped bombs near the aircraft factory. Damage was negligible. For 2 months, LeMay had the same problems with high-altitude flights. The jet stream and bad weather over Japan forced him to try something bold, something that had never been tried before.
This quaint-looking jellyfish contains enough gasoline to spread fire of 1,000 degrees over 30 square yards. When dropped from a plane, it pancakes and spreads consuming flame like a fountain.
The incendiary jelly napalm had just been developed in 1944 by DuPont and Standard Oil.
The incendiaries were clusters of bombs, all bundled together. When the bomb hits and the jellied gasoline spreads, it starts little fires. And his great hope was that the little fires would converge and create a large fire, an all-consuming urban conflagration. Here's Tokyo. Houses made of tar paper, houses made of flimsy wood, a bonfire that just needed a match to strike it. And napalm was perfect for that.
LeMay's gamble was not using napalm. It was flying at low altitudes to avoid the winds. Low altitudes, like the mission he had sent against Holland in 1943 with B-26s. Not one B-26 came home that day, he remembered. So that's what happens at low altitudes.
To us, that was totally absurd. We couldn't conceive of taking that airplane designed for high altitude bombing and bring it in there like as a B-26 Marauder. We thought they could throw the kitchen sink up there and hit us. My crew says, I think those generals lost their marbles.
What are we doing here with an airplane at 5,000 feet when we were trained to do missions above 20,000 feet?
When the B-29 crews heard that he was also taking away most of the armaments, the only bullets being left on board were for the tail guns. He was disarming the other guns. They were really disturbed. They felt they were going in defenseless.
In his memoirs, LeMay recalled the anguish of his decision.
Dear General, this is the anniversary of my son Nicky being killed over Tokyo. You killed him, General.
If we go in low, at night, I think we'll surprise the chaps.
You killed him, General.
Not only take out the guns and ammunition, take out the gunners, too. Less weight,
I'm going
fewer
to send you
people
a letter
jeopardized.
each year on the anniversary of his death to remind you. Dear General, dear General.
We don't think their night fighters amount to anything. We don't think their night fighters amount to anything. And we could be wrong as hell.
Dear General, this is the anniversary of my son Nicky being killed over Tokyo. Dear General, dear General.
On March 9, 1945, General Curtis LeMay dispatched 325 B-29s armed with incendiary bombs on the first low-altitude mission against Japan. Among the targets in the Sumida district of Tokyo were several large factories that made airplane parts. War production was also dispersed in small factories and hundreds of households with drill presses and lathes. It was one of the most densely crowded areas in the world. Yoshiko Hashimoto's family lived in the Sumida district.
From the beginning of 1945, the B-29 bombers flew over Tokyo more frequently. They came almost every night, and we would go to bed with our regular clothes on every night. Then we had the air raid the night of March 10th.
LeMay stayed up that night for the radio reports from his lead pilot. The early ones read, large fires observed, flak moderate, fighter opposition nil. The later ones read, conflagration.
Warehouses lined up on both sides of the river were burning. Women's hair and men's clothes caught on fire. My mother took off her protective hood from her head, put it on my head, and looked into my eyes.
私にかぶせてくれたんです。で、橋の上で防空付近
Without a protective hood, my mother's hair must have caught on fire after I jumped into the river.
と同じように火がついて
She must have died in agony.
母は倒れていったと思うと今でも胸がいっぱいになります。
I cannot hold back my tears whenever I think about it, and cannot forget her sad face looking into mine.
胸から離れません。
When we got over the target, it was like 1,000 Christmas trees lit up all over, and you could feel the heat when you're there, and you could smell the smoke and the stench of human and animal flesh as that city is being consumed by millions of fires all over, and they can't extinguish them. It's awesome. It's awesome.
The next night, LeMay was shown the photos. An aide remembered a full minute of silence. All this is out, LeMay then said, running a hand over several square miles of Tokyo. This is out. This. It's all ashes, another general said. All that, and that, and that. LeMay's B-29s had flown far below the jet stream, too low for the heavy anti-aircraft. His gamble had worked. The military targets were gone. As many as 100,000 civilians died that night. No bombing raid in the war had been more destructive.
I'm sort of a religious person. I was brought up with a strong faith, and I couldn't understand why there was a God that would permit that to happen and use me to see that it was being done, you know. And it bothered me a lot. It bothered me a lot. And I never forget, I wrote home to my pastor about that, and he says, you know, it's a secret that's known only to God. He did what he wanted to have done.
Naturally, we knew that there was going to be civilians killed, and I don't think we ever got to a point that, hey, this is awful, you know, let's quit. We were directed to do these missions, and we did them.
Congratulations, Army Air Forces Commander General Henry Arnold wired from Washington. This mission